So before I start the story, I just want to give a little mini rant, which is honestly just nitpicking and, well, basically would have no effect on the story whatsoever, really. But, so this story is on Spring Awakening, but, I just want to say something. It starts off with, it was a regular thing every Thursday since Moritz was 3 and 6. Wait, every Thursday since Moritz was 6 and 3/4 and Melky was 7. Okay, well, one thing I want to point out is that in the original play version, Moritz is actually supposed to be older than Melchior. Now, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's just a mistranslation, and he's not supposed to be older, but I'm pretty sure it states that Moritz is actually older than Melchior, so I just want to point that out first off. Already incorrect with ages, but whatever. Also, I want to say that I'm unsure of how old these kids are supposed to be. I know they're not actually 6 and 3/4, even though it kind of sounds like they aren't teenagers. Maybe they just have really not. Maybe they just really don't have that much of a harsh vocabulary in this version. I don't know. But either way, you'll understand when I actually read the story, but it's I'm not sure how old they are, but considering the fact that he's still going to their house because his mom's not there, I'm assuming they're probably not teenagers, which is a little weird to hear a story about possibly 11-year-olds making out on a couch, but okay, sure. But that's not the issue here. The issue isn't 11-year-olds making out on a couch. But realistically, you'd have to have a real paranoid mother if she were to say, no, you have to get babysat even though you're freaking 16 years old. So they're probably I don't know, maybe 14 maximum or something in this. But whatever. I'm gonna start the actual story now. It was a regular thing. Every Thursday since Moritz was 6 and 3/4 and Melky was 7, Moritz would go over to Melchior's house. Because Thursday, Moritz's mom taught a class at the college and couldn't take care of him. They'd go home from school and do their homework sprawled out and that's a spelling error, Melky's bedroom floor. Then they'd go downstairs for dinner, which was almost always shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie had been Moritz's favorite food when he was little, and Melky's mom had always made it for him. Moritz appreciated it, even if he couldn't stand the food anymore. He pushed the mashed potatoes and carrots around on his plate, and when pressed about it, he shrugged and glanced at Melky. We had a big lunch, Melky claimed, poking at the piece of beef. Also, wait, quick question. Beef in a shepherd's pie. Okay, either he's eating something separate, or this person, Melky's mom, does not know how to make shepherd's pie. That would be cottage pie? I'm not sure, but moving on. And I'm thinking about becoming a vegetarian. Fanny tissed and took a sip of water. How will you get your protein? I can eat other protein foods, he insisted, looking to Moritz for support. Moritz blinked at him. Yeah, Moritz finally signed, resting his fork on the edge of the plate. Like eggs and peanuts. Melky's allergic to peanuts, Fanny said. Oh, right. Chickpeas, Moritz shrugged. Melchior kicked Moritz under the table and grinned at him. Gross. After dinner, they shifted through Netflix in Melky's room, looking for a movie they could agree on. Deadpool, Moritz signed, bouncing slightly. Melky shook his head. Wonder Woman? Moritz huffed. Avengers? Karate Kid? They settled on an old action movie that neither of them had heard of, the fourth in a series. The subtitles were laggy, but that didn't really matter, because it wasn't like either of them were watching the movie. They were talking and throwing popcorn at one another, and Melky was complaining about how he was going to have to vacuum said popcorn up tomorrow. Mort situated himself so that his head was on Melky's lap and his feet were propped up on the top of the headboard, continuing his story about Thea's old violin teacher. Melky grinned down at him, and Mort smiled softly back. On screen, the leading man was thrown into increasingly dangerous and unlikely scenarios, but Moritz never felt safer than he did then. The leading man jumped out of a plane, the subtitles still insisting he was arguing with the pilot, and the credits rolled. Moritz dropped his hands to his side and stared at the ceiling. Melky leaned forward to flip closed the fip. That's also another spelling error? Melky leaned forward to flip close the laptop. Sure. There was a pause. Melky, Moritz finally sighed. What animal would you be? This was a thing they did. Both of them were allowed to ask each other anything. Sometimes it was important stuff, not usually. Melky had woken up quite a few times to Mort asking him if he thought bees had feelings. I don't get that, okay? Melky glanced down at him and shrugged. I don't know, something weird? Jellyfish? You? A butterfly, Mort signed, fluttering his hands. It'd be nice to be pretty. Melky stared at him. Moritz, you're... He signed, then paused. INCREDIBLE. Moritz rolled his eyes, not looking at Melky. He could tell he was blushing. The butterfly thing was true, though. Melchior, Moritz knew, liked pretty people. Like Wendla and Hansen. Well, maybe not Hansen, but definitely Wendla. It's not like Elise hadn't told him the rumors. No, I'm not, he pursed his lips. My ears are big. Adorable. Melky beamed at him, and Moritz propped himself up on his elbows. I failed English last year. That teacher hated you. Melky put his hands over Moritz. Moritz glared at him, and Melky rolled his eyes. Moritz, please. Moritz really wanted to yank his hands away from Melky, wanted to be able to communicate again, but it was nice, he supposed, holding Melky's hand. Kind of. Melky's eyes flickered down, and he seemed to notice what he was doing, withdrawing his hands and shoving them in his pockets. You're pretty, Moritz signed reluctantly. Melky's eyes shot up, then he frowned playfully. I know. Moritz shoved him, giggling, and Melky grinned widely, leaning back against the wall. I didn't know you thought so, though, he signed, his hands barely out of his lap. You didn't... He hadn't known... How hadn't he known? Moritz had spent years now being told how obvious he was, mostly by Thea. Melky glanced down. No. Moritz took a deep breath and shifted towards Melchior. Well, I do. I think you're very pretty, Melchior. Melky's mouth hitched into a smile, and he stared at Moritz's lips, his mind obviously far away. Why are you looking at my lips? I'm not going to start talking. Melky jolted out of his reverie. You're not going to... He blinked, then closed his eyes and shook his head, smiling to himself. Yeah, I know. He leaned closer to Moritz, and then they were kissing. And oh! Melchior had obviously kissed people before, which Moritz had known, but had just kind of neglected to focus on, because it wasn't relevant, really. But now they were kissing, and he was pretty sure some part of his brain short-circuited. The little electric currents in his brain rerouting, reconsidering what was possible, because he hadn't thought that this would be, but here he was, kissing Melchior Gabor. Incredible. Melky drew back, opening his mouth just a tiny bit, maybe saying something. Wow, Moritz signed. Again, once he regained control of his hands, once the electric current in his brain had corrected its route. Yeah, Melky said. Can we... Moritz dropped his hand in his lap. Melky pushed Moritz down softly against the star-patterned sheets Fanny had gotten him for his birthday, and they kissed. Again, and again, and... Moritz thought that this might be heaven on earth, even if Melky didn't believe in any of that, because Melky's hands in Melky's mouth and his tongue, and oh God! When they finally pulled apart, Melky rolled off Moritz, propping himself up on one hand, smiling like he had won the universe. Moritz pulled himself closer to Melchior, nestling himself into the curved Melky's shoulder. He felt safe, and warm, and well, it became a regular thing.